And we're back. And here's Modi. Wow, we have such a great guest today. I'm so excited. I don't even know how to begin the introduction of our guest. He is the reason I do stand-up comedy. He and I met when we both moved into the city. Well, he was already in the city. He went to Columbia University. I went to BU. We moved into the city. Our first apartments were in the same building, and we met and became friends right away. Like two Jews, same age, da-da-da. We used to go on walks, to eat yogurt. Our friendship was such a strong friendship because we had so much in common. We didn't drink. We didn't want to be in loud bars. We didn't want to be in, we used to go to, what was the name of that club?
Roxy?
The Roxy, and sit outside and watch the people coming in and out rather than go in. Meanwhile,
much more fun.
Right. Meanwhile, at 45 years old, I realized how much fun it was inside. Right. But Donny and I were like, "What are we doing tonight?" I don't know. Let's go to the Roxy. We sat out there, saw people coming in and out, stoned, high, drunk, and we never went in. We went and got frozen yogurt and went home.
Okay. First of all, what's his name, our guest?
Donny Moss. I'm about to introduce him.
Okay.
He's my friend, Donny Moss. And then when I was working at Merrill Lynch, I would come home and we would hang out with other friends, and I would do imitations of the secretaries I worked with. And Donny said, "Do this on stage." I go, "What stage?" He said, "Stand-up comedy." And I'd never been to a comedy club. And he organized my first show, and it was at Stand Up New York, which was around the corner from where we lived. We were on 79th in Columbus. I was on 78th and Broadway. And he made the first night happen. And that was it. Since then, I've been doing stand-up comedy. And
that is insane. Did you have any background? Like, how did you know you recognized something that he didn't even recognize in himself?
Well, I mean, you must have known that you were a funny person, right? Because I'm sure you were always making people laugh, but no one had ever said to you, you should be a stand-up comedian. And you and I were spending so much time together, and when I wasn't apologizing to whoever you were insulting, I was laughing. I mean, we were always laughing.
Yeah.
I have to just tell one quick anecdote. Modi said we used to go for yogurt. We would walk on weeknights after work. We would walk to this yogurt place about 15 blocks away on Columbus Avenue. And we would get, and speaking of the yogurt, Modi would have them put sprinkles at the bottom and the middle and the top because he thought every bite needed to have sprinkles in it. I mean, so everything was silly and fun and funny and everybody sort of loved him. But the reason I was saying that he was, I kind of had to apologize for him. I don't know if you remember this. We were walking in the street and you saw Matt LeBlanc, the guy from Friends. Mm-hmm. And, look, the friend. Like Modi didn't know to like sort of be discreet. He just kind of pointed at him. And I'm like, oh God, I'm so sorry. He just got to this country. I mean, he'd already been here for like 30 years. But, but yeah, so I said, you are the funniest person I've ever met. You've got to get on stage. And what he doesn't talk about, I don't know if you've ever talked about this, is the fact that he went up on Stand Up New York. He killed the first day.
Oh, he talks about that?
Okay. And
I was on a night with all open micers who were horrible. First of all, I also didn't care about being a stand-up comic. I was doing this for fun.
Right.
They were like, "Oh my God, this is my dream." I said, "I have to kill." And they just sucked. And then I went on and I had a great set. But go ahead.
We didn't even know it was called a set at the time.
Yeah, we had no idea.
And so, but what was so remarkable, and I didn't know anything about the stand-up world either, but was that within a few months, Modi was performing at all the big clubs.
Right.
He never had to do what so many comics have to do as they're climbing their way to the top, which is barking and doing bringer shows. I mean, he didn't have to. You paid your dues because you had to host late at night at the Comedy Cellar, but there were comics who would have killed at that stage in their career to be able to do what you were doing.
How did you know how to even set up a comedy show, though? Like, how did you know you went to the club and you said, like, I have a friend? Because usually they'd
I'll tell you exactly how he did it. He went to the club and said, "I have a friend who's very funny. How do I get him on stage?" And you have to bring 5 people and we'll give him 6 minutes.
Right.
So he brought, I believe it was Eric Ruthius.
Really? How do you remember
Yeah,
this?
I remember the table. Donny has a pack of friends from college. From college. And it's like his pack of friends, straight people and their kids. I performed one of their weddings. And and he brought this crew. He's like, come with me to Modi's thing. And I went up there. I was in a suit because I came from work. And I remember that night like it was yesterday. The club looked like a dump. It was such a dump. But they sat right when you come in where the door is. And I went up and we had the best time. And I was on such a high.
Right.
I was on such a high, and Carrie Hoffman, who was the owner, came to me and said, you should stick with this and start to write your stuff.
Wow.
Yeah, but Donny made that happen.
But the act outs all came very naturally to you. You know, you didn't have to right away start up with setups and punchlines, I don't think.
I was doing huge characters.
Right.
So I just opened my mouth and, hey, you know, and hey, it was like very that. It was these over the top. A Latin lady, a gay secretary, a Russian something or else, an Italian waiter.
The Jamaican woman who had a box on the subway.
Yeah.
The aerobics.
The aerobics. I had this aerobics bit. I used to jump on. You remember when step classes were in?
Yeah.
I had this whole thing about step classes. I don't remember any of them, and most of the material I could not do today. That's for sure. Donny thought I shouldn't be doing a lot of it back then. Donny was my Leo back then. You can't say that. You can't say that.
Oh, I wish I could remember that. Because
I don't remember
now I'm
any of
thinking all of that stuff would be funny today, and you're saying that now you're the one who's saying you can't do it.
Oh yeah. Are you crazy?
Doing imitations of
but the lines that I don't remember, Conyo and Mira. I remember all those. Anyway, it was an act. It was over the top. So I was closing shows at the comic strip.
Right.
I was closing shows at these other clubs, and then finally in April of '94. Esty passed. I got into Esty, and Esty passed me, and
At the Comedy Cellar.
Yeah, but before that, I was closing the shows at the strip, and it was.
And he was brand new, and I don't think either of us appreciated how quickly your
No idea.
Yeah, we had no basis
no
for comparison
idea that
because we didn't know anyone else who did it.
Now, are you getting a percentage of all of this?
Yeah, Modi sends me a monthly check. No, just being here is thanks enough.
No, Donny, and then, so now what was going on with Donny at that moment? Donny's so smart. He's gonna say he's not. He's one of the smartest people I know. It's a miracle that everybody in my life is so smart and I am the dumbest person.
That's ridiculous.
No, but it's and his husband even smarter. But Donny was working in he couldn't have hated it more. He was working in for pharmaceutical companies and doing their PR and then PR companies that did pharmaceuticals. And he was jumping back and forth because when he worked here, they would say, please, we'll hire you. And then he worked here at another pharmaceutical company, we'll hire you. He could have been today the biggest in pharmaceutical company PR in the world. He would rather smash his head into a moving bus. Literally, he could not have hated his job ever more.
It wasn't my calling, for sure.
Right. Now, so then he thought he was going to be a chef. Remember that?
I went to culinary school while I was doing the pharmaceutical.
Culinary school because he was going to do that. And that was a hot minute for Donny.
And you and another friend came to the graduation dinner where I cooked foie gras.
Ooh.
And
no,
boy, if I knew then what I know now, yes. What do you mean no?
Full on dementia. You're kidding me.
You don't remember coming to a graduation dinner?
I remember that like it was yesterday. I remember where I sat, and it wasn't foie gras. It was the ankle of the
Ossobuco?
Ossobuco. He put this piece of garbage in front of me. It looked like, can I tell you what it looked like? You know when gefilte fish comes in that jelly?
Yes.
With a piece of flesh a piece of meat next to it? He served that in front of me. I looked at the people we were with. I was with Amy Blyer. I remember it was yesterday. There's things you remember. And Donny's, he had the chef thing and the clogs. He had the clogs and he had the whole thing. And he shows me this thing and go, you're kidding. What else are we having? And they're talking about how they did it and the heat of the oven was so important. I go, what is this? It was the grossest thing I'd ever seen.
I don't think I ate it either, by the way.
You didn't eat it either,
no.
But you cooked it.
I don't remember. I can, although I don't know if you still eat this, but I don't think you do. But Modi at that time was only eating the chicken, the salad with a grilled chicken on top.
Nothing
every meal.
Nothing. It's in my rider.
Oh, okay.
It's in my rider.
So yeah, you were the wrong person to invite to that event.
He doesn't.
What are you talking about?
I mean, I'm glad you were there, but you didn't like
my friend's first meal at culinary school. I'm the wrong person to invite to that meal.
Okay.
You should have ordered a pizza or something. You should have made pizza in the little pizza ovens they had. I saw.
You've never met anyone less interested in food. Like he'll eat because he has to eat.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I wish I could eat to live instead of live to eat. You know,
hold
what
on.
a gift to not care.
If we are doing the pass back, Donny, we're talking about we were 23, 4, 5. This is when Donny could eat 5 meals a night. He could walk into a restaurant, have a full meal. We'd walk by a pizza place and go, that smells amazing. 2 slices. Walk down further somewhere and have a hot dog at Papaya, whatever it was. He could eat with absolutely no. He had this little body, always built like a abs and this and always. And then it changed. And
that came to a screeching halt.
Screeching halt.
Because I can remember one day where he said, "Oh, Donny, you really let yourself go."
Oh.
So I took the empanada out of my mouth. And actually, you're the one who introduced me to intermittent fasting. And so it's been 4 years now since you and Leo came over and we had dinner and you said you were intermittent fasting at the time. I said, I'm going to try that. And it's been 4 years since I basically stopped eating breakfast, and it really helps.
Yeah.
It really has helped me.
Stopping to eat does help.
Yeah, not eating.
But then Donny's trajectory. Ooh, SAT word.
Not really. It's good enough.
I mean, it's fine, but it's not an SAT word.
It's not an SAT word? It definitely is an SAT word. A trigonometry's in it. Donny became vegan.
Really?
Yeah. And you know how everybody, just like I said to him, I threw him the line, hey, try intermittent fasting. And like we've, of course, 2 weeks later finished with intermittent fasting. And then he stayed for 4 years with it. It was that time where like Netflix had nonstop documentaries about going vegan and not eating meat. And Donny watched all of them and memorized them and told us all we have to watch them. And he caught on to that. And of course, you watch one of those documentaries and you for like a day or two become vegan. But Donny kept with it and really feels the anguish and the pain of the animals. And it is like, Donny is when I do something good for the Jewish community, there's nothing but thank you and we're so appreciative and thank you. Donny is helping people, animals, and it can't be thanked. Like they can't thank him when he protests and when he does all. I mean, we're going to talk about what he does. One of the main things, he made a movie called Blinders, which was about the horse-drawn carriages in New York City. Hey. One of the most ridiculous things that exists in our city, the torture that these animals go through. And every civilized city in the world almost banned it, right?
Yeah, it's been banned from a lot of cities. I mean, the idea that we have horses pulling, 19th century carriages through the congested streets of Midtown Manhattan, and we've all seen it because it's right in front of the Plaza Hotel and all through those streets of Midtown. It's so anachronistic, it's so inhumane, it's so unsafe, but the industry is politically connected. But yeah, I made a documentary film called Blinders, The Truth Behind the Tradition in 2008.
On his cell phone.
No, it wasn't a cell phone, but it wasn't with all this fancy equipment. But I didn't, when I bought the camera at B&H Photo, when I bought the camera, I wasn't thinking I'm making I thought I was going to make some short videos to help the activists who were trying to raise awareness and educate the public about why this was cruel. But one interview led to another, and I was contacted by people who witnessed accidents and then veterinarians who work on horses, and it just turned into a whole documentary. And I got lucky because Alec Baldwin saw it and volunteered to host a screening, the New York premiere. And so it got more attention than it otherwise would have. And now I uploaded it to YouTube. You can see it for free.
What you once had an incident where one of your clips on YouTube that had millions of clicks was taken off and then was put on again?
Oh, so in 2000,
was that the horse-drawn thing or no?
No, in 2013, I
don't want to get into the politics of it, but he had a miracle. I saw a miracle happen with Donny Moss, and he would never acknowledge it. He's not like into that. but he had a video that was on a project he was working on it had hundreds of thousands of views, if not in the millions of views. Right?
That's happened a couple times. I mean, the one video that has the most views, about 10 million views, is about a dog in Liberia. I was in Liberia visiting a friend, and she rescued a dog who was dying in the street. And I documented that dog's recovery, and the dog was sent to the US and is living with a family in Denver. And so that video, I didn't know that was going to happen, but went viral. So I've had videos taken down, but one came back up. It was about politics.
It was a big political thing, and it was taken down. And then through just asking favors from people who were in YouTube world and whatever, it was put back up with not like a brand new, like
right.
It was a miracle. It was a miracle. And it's that Mashiach energy. That was a Mashiach energy moment you had there. Anyway, and then, so the blinders thing, was like, all of a sudden your friend is hosting a movie that he made on a camera, on like a little thingy camera, and had to interview these people some of them were really nasty, and you could tell just like the one that lived on Central Park South, the gay guy.
Who ended up hosting a fundraiser for Ted Cruz.
Yes.
And that was that guy's downfall. He was canceled.
And then it was just impressive. And it wasn't like a phase. He stayed with it, and he really is with these animals. And his Instagram account is amazing. I can't spell it.
It's all my social media platforms are at their turn, as if it's not your turn or your turn, it's their turn.
Right, the animal's turn.
The animal's turn. Because, and I named it that, and I probably wouldn't pick that name today, but at the time when I was speaking out on behalf of animals, everybody would say, well, what about the children? Or what about hunger? And what about cancer? And so I'm like, well, when is it going to be their turn? There's never going to be a good time for animals. So that's why I named it that. At the sort of the start of my animal rights.
So I don't eat meat. I'm a vegetarian, but most of my issue is that it's the industry. Like if you go to like an organic farm in like Italy, you're getting like a very different experience than you are with the disgusting meat industry of America, right? Is that part of it, or is that not?
Well, so first of all, over 99% of the animals and animal byproducts that we eat come from factory farms, these animal factories where they're just treated like commodities before they're sent off to the slaughterhouse. So, people who say, I only eat free range, cage-free, all of that stuff, these are marketing terms.
So bullshit.
Anytime an animal rights organization goes in with cameras and does an investigation, the truth is revealed, which is that they're just animals were raised in factories. And raised is generous. They're tormented for their whole lives in these factories before going off to the slaughterhouse. But even if animals did have a nice life, and that can never happen given how many we eat, I mean, a slaughterhouse is such a horrible place. Nothing humane happens in a slaughterhouse. And it was footage of inside of slaughterhouses that I saw back in 2005 that I had never seen it before. And it's all sort of well hidden. I mean, the industry doesn't want you to see these things, right? Because they know that people like me would see it and say, oh my God, here I said I love animals. And then I was sitting down 3 times a day to eat animals who were slaughtered in these horrific ways. And so there's there's no good way to do it.
Well, I wanted to speak to you about one of the biggest things that you work on, which is the Kaporos.
Yeah. So
you know what that is, right?
No. What's Kaporos?
How do you not know what Kaporos is?
You've never heard of that?
No.
She's why we keep on the podcast. She's just so in case something Jewish comes up, she's like, "What does that mean?"
Well, to be fair, I mean, most secular Jews have never heard of Kaporos.
Well, it's also what we're saying the name of it, but you know that before Yom Kippur, a tradition there is to take a chicken, swing it over your head 3 times, right?
Oh, I have heard of that.
That's Kaporos. Kaparot.
A live chicken?
A live chicken, and then the chicken's killed. It could also be done with money. So in the Jewish community, in the Jewish tradition, before Yom Kippur, it is customary to take a chicken or money and swing it over your head, and you say these prayers, and then the chicken is killed, and it's supposed to be that your sins go into the chicken, and the chicken is then slaughtered, and and your sins are kind of absolved, or it's at least you acknowledge that you have sins, and you're doing something acknowledging your sins. Now, in my opinion, back in the old days when you were in the shtetl, in the old Anatevka, or if you were in Morocco on your farm, whatever you'd go into the yard, you'd take a chicken, you'd cut its head off, and then you eat it. But now it's become an industry, and it's become scary. They have these trucks that are, and I'm basically doing your sell, but this is the way I view it, and you tell me if it's wrong. They have these trucks that are brought in a day or two before the Kaporos is done, and the chickens are filed and stuck in these. They can't spread their wings.
They're like crates.
That's right. It's crates, and and their defecation goes on to one another, and it's really, really sad. And people don't see that. People don't see how the chicken gets to the Kaporos. So when you're in your Jewish neighborhood and you go to where Kaporos is done, you don't see the truck. You just see what the truck has gone through in those few days before getting there. They're not being fed, they're not being watered. They're just tortured in this little thing, and then you're grabbing it and swinging it and then killing it. It's a horrible thing. It's a horrible thing.
First of all,
let me finish. And so, they have them during the season of Kaporos before Yom Kippur all over Brooklyn in the Hasidic neighborhoods. They have them also in Long Island in not so religious neighborhoods. Some people do it. Most don't. I'm going to continue on. Donny always asks me for information about it and what do you think and how, and did you know that they can do money instead of the chicken? And I always told him, the Orthodox Jewish community does not need you to educate them on how to practice their religion. They may need some education in what's happening with the chicken until it gets to where it is. And I always told Donny, it's insane because in one of the neighborhoods that he fights at the most, which is Crown Heights, a neighborhood that's very dear to me because it's the Lubavitch headquarters and where Jewish tunnels were invented. They do this there. And, there's also a Jewish museum there for children. And I haven't been there in a long time, but one of the exhibits in that museum was when before Moses, how did God know Moses should be Moses? He saw his kindness to an animal. That's like one of the reasons Moses was Moses. And that was one of the exhibits they had at this museum. And then right across the street is where they do Kaporos. These poor chickens, and it could be, and I remember one of the people told me that they heard Donny's thing, and they told me that they, instead of going to the corner and doing that, they did it in their home with money. You can do it with money. It's the same mitzvah.
There's nothing in the Torah that mandates using a chicken.
Right. And so
it's just a tradition.
Yeah, and it's a very sad thing. And if I can give any plug to anybody, if you do Kaporos, don't take money and swing it over your head. And it's in the siddur. Any art scroll siddur will show you exactly what to do. It's easier. Less chickens are tortured, and it's one thing you can do. I'm not saying go vegan, but this is one thing. This is one thing you can definitely do. Am I right or wrong?
Absolutely. And it's just so, I don't think that most of the practitioners of Kaporos understand, first of all, that chickens are sentient, that they're living beings, that they can feel pain and suffer just like us.
Right.
But they also don't realize that not only are they brought into New York City in these flatbed trucks, but they're also in many cases kept in crates for up to several days with no food and water. So they're intensively confined. They have no protection from weather extremes, and they get sick. And we've found over the years thousands of dead crates dead chickens mixed in with the living in these crates. So there's also a big health issue here. And there have been bird flu outbreaks in New York City. It's just a matter of time before bird flu is transmitted from an animal to a human in that wet market, live animal market setting, right? When you think of how COVID emerged, probably in that wet market in China,
yeah,
you have humans physically handling live animals.
Not probably. I don't know if you heard in the past podcasts of ours, Periel declared herself as a Republican. So that means we never discussed that, by the way, and what happened with that crazy.
Okay, first of all, I am
so you for sure it was the wet markets of China for you, right?
I am first of all going to throw up. That is the most disgusting story I have maybe ever
gets
heard
grosser.
in
It
my
gets grosser.
life. What is going on here with millions of disgusting dead chickens? Like, what is this insanity? First of all, that is so foul.
Literally and figuratively.
Donnie used to do stand-up also, by the way. It was very funny.
I'm not kidding. That is so gross. Why are people doing that? Are they eating these chickens after this also?
You know what? There are probably 30 of these pop-up slaughterhouses that are erected, by the way, on public streets in residential neighborhoods without permits. If I want to have a street fair on my block, I have to get a permit with sign off from the Department of Transportation, Department of Health,
Okay. Okay, one second. I don't think, and again, I am with you 100%. I don't eat meat. I think the whole thing is disgusting. I think the way that animals are treated is revolting. It is like taking poison energy into your body. That's my personal position. I don't
Happy to hear it.
I don't think people care about how animals are treated, because in America, at least, if you go to the supermarket to buy meat, in most cases, there is intentionally a very big divide of what it looks like where you buy a nice plastic wrapped piece of meat versus the animal itself, right?
Okay.
You don't know because you don't go to supermarkets.
I've been to the supermarket.
Yeah, but they don't sell the chickens with the heads on them or the pigs with the heads. So if there's a disconnect between what you're buying.
I want to focus this podcast not on that, if you don't mind. I would like to help with people just not doing Kaporos.
But doing it with money, giving them another option is a very nice alternative.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think that's what the focus should be. If you don't mind, I just think it's when you have too many things on the table, talking about them, nothing gets done. But if we can just focus on the fact that even though we're so far away from the next Yom Kippur, we have Passover coming, Purim coming up, Pesach, and then before we get to Yom Kippur. But let's plant the seed. Let's plant the seed, and we'll bring you back on before Yom Kippur. Just let's lose Kaporos.
Do the money. The money is why not do the money?
That's it.
This is a business for a lot of people, right? These are concessions that people set up once a year.
How much does it cost to buy one of these things?
The chickens are anywhere from like $5 to $10 maybe. I think it varies from concession to concession. But there are these pop-up slaughterhouses and these Kaporos concessions set up throughout Williamsburg and Crown Heights and Borough Park, Midwood, other neighborhoods. It's a big business for people once a year. And that's part of what we're competing against. And people, I guess their rabbis say, we're once again, we're going to use chickens as Kaporos, and they listen to their rabbis. And I do think that we've gotten through to some people over the years.
That's good.
And I have had Modi, I have had people, Hasidim, come up to me and say, look, I agree with you. If this was a shtetl in Poland, then it's exactly what you just described. But most people are just doing it because it's part of the tradition. The rabbi tells them to. As soon as the rabbis say, this has been too industrialized, it's too unhealthy, it's too risky because of a disease transmission, like in this wet market setting. Keep in mind, you've got thousands upon thousands of individuals, including young children and the elderly, physically handling live animals who are sick, visibly sick with respiratory disease because they're mouth breathing, and they're mixed in crates with dead animals. So there is going to be a time where someone gets a version of bird flu that could be transmitted among humans, and it's going to spread like wildfire, like COVID, a strain of bird flu, before public health authorities are even aware of it. It's going to happen.
Shalom. Hopefully it won't. I'm just saying, in this, if we can do anything to help people listening to us, we have ultra orthodox listening to us and not religious at all. Who's like, what the hell? What money are they talking about? It's what money? What kaporos? What are you guys even talking about? And the religious ones, listen. This is if. I don't think that doing kaporos on the street and wherever you go is Mashiach energy, because it's just not. It's not right. There's suffering there, and you don't need nothing needs to be suffering for you. Listen, I've tried going vegan. I've tried going vegetarian. I try. It's here. It's there. We try not to, but we end up eating meat. We're on the road. We go to a kosher restaurant. We eat sushi. It's not. We try. And it's a very important thing to at least try, and it causes less things to happen. Going vegan completely for us was just not an option, but for some people it is. Some people it's a health issue. But if I can do one thing with this episode of this podcast, no more kaporos.
Also, the less meat you eat, the better. Every time you don't eat meat, it's better than eating meat, right?
Look, perfection is the enemy of good. There's no question about it. But
now there's our title.
I will say, back in 2005, when I saw a video called Meet Your Meat and made the switch to a plant-based diet and adopted a vegan lifestyle, it was a lot harder back then than it is now. I mean, now we have all of these substitutes, not all necessarily health food, but all of the things that you think you can't imagine giving up, they're alternatives now.
Yeah.
And they're delicious and they're almost indistinguishable. So I don't feel like I'm even making a sacrifice anymore. And when you think about how much better it is for your health to follow a plant-based diet, as many whole foods as possible, right? Whole foods, plant-based diet, how much better it is for the planet, right? Because nothing is more destructive than animal agriculture. And I mean, of course, fossil fuels are horrible too. And of course, it's better for the animals. And there's no Mashiach, I'm sure.
Mashiach energy.
Thank you. Involved in a slaughterhouse.
And what about your husband? Is he a vegan too?
Yeah, the crazy thing is when we met, he was a lawyer for one of the biggest meat and dairy companies in the world. I'm not going to name names because I'm not sure if we're supposed to, but and I was working at the time for a pharmaceutical company that made drugs to help the people who were getting sick from eating the meat and dairy that his company was selling.
Yeah.
So now we're both, neither of us work for a meat and dairy or pharmaceutical company. We're both plant-based vegans. You know.
I will say something. I'll take a moment to talk about your husband, who probably should come on the podcast as well. He's Jim McNasby. Like I said, my mom calls him the lawyer from Harvard. He's a Harvard lawyer, and he worked for these insane gigs. He had chief counselor of Kraft Food and chief counselor of something. And you were in London for a hot minute with him. What were you there?
A big global insurance company. Marsh, it was called.
Marsh McClellan.
It's still called that.
It's still called that. And he was their chief lawyer of this huge insurance company, coming from food. Just because the way he thinks, he knows how to fix problems. And he has Parkinson's. And he now is a chief counselor for the Michael Fox Foundation.
Oh, yeah.
And besides that, though, which is real Mashiach energy, when somebody's diagnosed with Parkinson's, chas v'shalom, God forbid, they call him. And he speaks to them, and he gives them that, like, it's going to be okay. Here's the options. Look at here, look at there. And he's very calm, his voice. It's he talks very light. And he now left that huge world of being whatever kind of lawyer he could be. And he's working and really helping the world, helping create Mashiach energy through the Michael J. Fox Foundation.
It's a great foundation. I've worked with them a few times.
Yeah,
They're amazing.
It's so they have advanced, Parkinson's far more than the government.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I want to again, this podcast. If anything you take away, just let's not do kaporos with chicken. Let's get back to Donny. Donny, for a hot minute, I forgot, used to do stand-up comedy.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. He had some funny jokes. There was one.
I was
joke.
so flattered when you took one of them.
I took one of his jokes. I go, well, listen, you stopped doing comedy. I go, perfect. I'm taking one of his jokes. He had a joke, and if I can remember it, I don't do it, but he goes, it's a great joke for wherever you are in the world.
Uh-huh.
You can just ask somebody in the audience, what's the worst neighborhood in this area? And they'll tell you Compton in LA or Riverville or wherever in some part of Detroit that you never heard, and you just get the name, a specific name, and you can say I was in Compton. Wow, the cops are there. They're really tough. I saw one peeing behind the squad car. No, I saw one peeing behind the police car, and she wasn't even squatting. That was the
That was my opener. Like, I knew I could get a laugh right away.
It was such a great show. And she wasn't even squatting. I love that joke. You had other funny jokes. Very Wendy Lieberman type of humor. Pom, 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 like in a flat affect at the boom. It was very funny. And it was too schleppy for you. It was too much running around, right?
It was a lot. Well, we moved to London, and then none of my jokes worked there. It was like, I was doing jokes about things that, like just the Olive Garden as an example, things that they had no idea about. So I had my 10 or 15 minutes when I moved there, and none of it worked. And also there was smoking in London at the time.
Yes.
And I just said, you know what, I'm going to put this on hold till I get back. And I just never took it up again. And my husband at home with Parkinson's disease who needed help at the time, and thankfully he's doing better now. And so I didn't take it up again. I sometimes miss it. I had horrible stage fright, but I love that feeling.
No, but he at his husband's birthday party, he grabbed the mic and killed. It killed. I forgot that speech you made at Jim's birthday party. So funny. It was just great. Anyway, it's one of the blessings of my life is having Donny Moss as a close friend. He was at the 92nd Street Y, and he's helping the world, creating Mashiach energy through animal rights. Like I said, if you can, do not do Kaporos. That's, if we can just take one thing with chickens. Thank you. Don't do Kaporos with chicken. On that note, I want to thank our sponsors.
Yes. Oh.
Yes.
It's a rough transition.
If you're gonna eat meat, enjoy yourself. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy it, and have the best quality and type of meat from A&H Provisions. The clean, packaged well. I don't know what happened before, but it's if you're gonna eat meat, and our people here are gonna eat meat. This is not gonna change anyway to vegan. We're hoping this episode just stops doing Kaporos with chicken, but our friends sponsor us, and they're amazing. A&H Provisions website.
www.kosherdogs.net. Sorry, Donny.
Yes, this is probably
it's a tough one.
It's a tough one.
It's a tough
and of course, Whites in Luxembourg, the law firm that not only does well, they do good. Very philanthropic. Arthur Luxembourg is a friend of the podcast, been on the podcast, and Whites in Luxembourg is definitely the attorneys you want behind you. And their website is?
whitesandlux.com, or just Whites Lux.
Yeah. So how can people reach you and help you and be a part of what you're doing?
You can find me at theirturn.net and on all the social media platforms at theirturn.
And the there is spelled T-H-I-E-R.
E-I-R. Very close.
I was close. I knew it wasn't the E-R-E.
Right, that's
And
great.
I knew it wasn't the other one with the...
We know you just got here from Israel a couple years ago.
Coming up with the name, I was bothering you. They were there. Remember?
Whose turn is it?
Whose turn is it? I couldn't get it down. But he's almost like a one-man operation, and you should definitely branch out. And if anybody wants to help, reach out to him. It's real. Everything he gives it with 100%. And Periel, this is going to air before or after Paramount? Probably the week of, no?
Let's say that you have shows coming up.
We have shows coming up. I don't know if this is before or after the Paramount Theater. Watch me do this without Leo. I'm more than giving myself a shikoyach. I'm at the Paramount Theater in Huntington, Long Island on the 15th and the 18th. Tickets are almost sold out. There might be one or two left by now. Then we go to San Diego at the Balboa Theater. And that is on the Boston. No, without Lee, I don't know what the hell I'm doing.
ModiLive.com.
No, leave me alone. I can do this. Boston. I'm going to be in Boston the 28th and 29th of February. A few tickets left in each show. And then San Diego, the 3rd of March, 2 shows, a matinee and an evening show. And then at the Improv, it's already sold out, so never mind. The Improv in Hollywood. And then we have St. Louis and Orlando and Dallas and Denver and all places in Pennsylvania. The Kennedy Center sold out. But what's most important is ModiLive.com. Get tickets for yourself, for friends. Be the friend that brings the friends to the comedy show. That's Mashiach energy, making your friends laugh. And what else?
You're going to be in Royal Oak, Michigan.
Royal Oak, Michigan, yes, which is by Detroit.
You're going to be in Montclair, New Jersey on March
New Jersey.
17th.
Those shows, I think, are sold out, but they may not be. ModiLive.com. Just go to ModiLive.com. Say hi. We love all your feedback. Again, thank you to A&H sponsoring us, and also Whites in Luxembourg. And thank you, Donny Moss, for being here today and making me be a stand-up comedian. You can definitely say it's because of me you're doing stand-up.
Thank you very much. I mean, chances are you'd be doing it anyway by this point, but thank you.
Now, who
Joy to
knows?
be here, and I'm happy to come back every week for the rest of my life.